Welcome back, fellow mutants. Your friend Streebo here with you once again to talk about Star Wars. I know a lot of you are tired of talking about this, but it's been almost 10 months since the release of The Rise of Skywalker and the what was sold to us as the ending of the Skywalker saga. There are a lot of what I feel to be loose emotional threads that need to be addressed that will hopefully explain why those of us that are older, lifelong Star Wars fans are really dissatisfied with what Disney wound up doing with the new Star Wars trilogy. Now, this is not going to be a video to denigrate any of the fans of the new Star Wars trilogy. There are parts of it that I like, there are parts of it that I love. But unfortunately, there are parts of it that I hate with a burning passion. And it begins and ends with a three-word title, The Last Jedi, and then two-word name, Rian Johnson. One reason I stopped making videos about this subject for a little while is because I don't want to fall into what people like to call toxic fandom. I'm just not I don't want to spend my day complaining. So I'm sure somebody will see everything I say here as whining and crying for attention. That's fine. Maybe I'm jealous of Rian Johnson. That's fine. Whatever you want to say. If you want to say I don't want to see strong female characters, that's fine. I grew up with Princess Leia, so if you want to just ignore that and disregard that, that's fine too. But for just a second, if you are curious about my point of view as a lifelong fan, as the person responsible for bringing you this franchise, I was the one that went to see it. I lined up to go see it at the theater. I was the one that wore the T-shirts year after year, that bought the posters, that bought the books, that bought the movies, that bought the comic books, that bought the VHS when it came out, that watched it on CBS when it first played, that watched it on HBO when it first played, even before it was on CBS. I listened to the audiobooks, everything. Had the action figures. Some of my earliest, you know, childhood memories were recreating Star Wars just using the action figures. I even created a whole sequel to the original Star Wars. To the first film. Then I did sequels to Empire Strikes Back, and then I did sequels to Return of the Jedi, all with my action figures. I wish I had those recordings, but I don't. So if you are a new fan, you're happy with the franchise, you want to know why do we hate it, I'm going to try to take you down this road with me. Okay, and I'm going to also do it in a way that hopefully you'll start to sympathize with what we went through and realize it can happen to you when you get a few years down the road and they decide that they're going to destroy that which you now love. And you'll get a little taste of this. What comes around goes around, right? This is the original. Okay, this is actually my second card. I joined the Star Wars fan club after The Empire Strikes Back. So I got a lot of newsletters about that were first about Empire Strikes Back, and then as they moved into production for the Return of the Jedi, initially Revenge of the Jedi, which was a really cool title. You would get pictures of that and little tales of behind the scenes, just action and stories or whatever of the upcoming Revenge of the Jedi. And I even at one point I had a little patch that said Revenge of the Jedi on it. And they gave you like I think a bumper sticker with a bantha on it, and there was because the newsletter was called Bantha Tracks. Okay, but anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So I was barely old enough to go see Star Wars in the theater. My mom took me to see it. Okay. Um, the biggest problem that we have, I'm just jumping all over the place, but let me give my overall thesis first so you can decide if you want to come on this journey with me. Okay, so the problem is the betrayal of Luke Skywalker. I can pretty much accept everything else, even the Palpatine stuff at the end, with, I don't know, with a slight eye roll. Ugh, really? But I'll accept it. I didn't hate the Rise of the Jedi or the Rise of Skywalker. That title alone just pisses me off. But the one thing we cannot accept is the way we were led down the primrose path. Those of us that were fans of, that grew up with Luke Skywalker, and we wanted to see him in new movies, the way we were lied to in The Force Awakens, and then the way we were betrayed in The Last Jedi. That's how we feel. Okay, we were betrayed. All right, now I'm going to give you a quick comparison, try to show you why. Okay, because we want to know, how did Luke Skywalker go from this?
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Okay. To this.
Is it true? Did you try to murder him?
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue
This
you.
island now. Stop. Stop.
No, you tried to murder him. How do we go from this?
Blast away the TV doldrums.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Blast away the TV doldrums.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
To this.
You tried to murder him. Leave this island now. Stop. Stop.
And how do we go from this?
What is it? It's your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
Now, if you weren't there in the theater, now I know kids today love to, and even adult fans love to go back and they look at this stuff and they say, the effects aren't that good. Listen, Lucasfilm, Industrial Light and Magic, they changed the game on special effects. So everything that you enjoy about effects today are because of this movie. Okay, so show respect to where it came from. And there's still a lot of the effects still hold up quite well. But if you weren't there in the theater when this first happened, I mean, this was a moment that transformed the world. Right here, this lightsaber ignites. This is the first one you ever see.
Not as clumsy or random as a blaster.
I remember being in the aisle at this moment and had in my mind just exploding. What am I seeing? What is this? I was just a little kid. I wasn't even in preschool yet. I mean, I was just at the age where I could comprehend images and understand that a story is a story and try to follow it. That was it. How do we go from that to this bullshit? I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. This was your father's lightsaber. Vroom. Okay, so another seminal moment. I'm sitting in the theater watching The Last Jedi, and that happens. At that moment, a chill just ran up my spine, and I knew something has gone sideways. Something has gone sideways here. This is like that scene in American History X where dude is taking a shower and all the other guys come in naked with that towel. That's what that scene was like. I was like, oh my god, here they come. They're about to fuck me in the ass. That's what happened. That's what happened. We got fucked in the ass from the beginning to the end. Yeah, I'm whining. Yeah, I'm crying. I'm trying to explain to you, okay? Look at this guy right here. You see him? That was him after the first one, Star Wars. You can't see it, but that shirt is Han Solo. Originally, Han Solo was my favorite. Luke was milk toast in the first movie, as Harlan Ellison calls him. He was milk toast. he was kind of whiny, but he was also, he was the avatar, he was the cipher for all of us. And then over the years, the story got filled in and became more than it was once Star Wars became a phenomenon. Okay. Um, Here's one of the early. This is my original, and I've had since the beginning. So this predates, 1978. Predates the actual Empire Strikes Back. When this was in my hands, this was it. I mean, you had no idea there was an Empire Strikes Back coming. You had no idea. No Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Jedi, no prequels, no Jar Jar Binks, no Force Awakens, no Last Jedi, no Rise of Skywalker, no video games. It wasn't on VHS. It wasn't streaming on Disney Plus. It wasn't playing on CBS. It wasn't playing on HBO. This was it. You either saw it in the theater or you relived it with this. That was it. That was it. Now I'm going to tell you something you're not going to believe me. And there are times I don't even hardly believe myself. I saw this scene in the theater. There was one screening. I saw the scene with Luke and his friends in the theater. You don't believe me? I hardly believe it. Okay, but in the 70s and 80s, the Deep South was used as a testing bed for alternate cuts of films and, just tests for theatrical runs. Okay, don't believe me? Here you go. Now, this was prior to The Empire Strikes Back. There I am, it's little male child with my Snoopy doll. You can see there Battlestar Galactica on the wall behind me. It's Battlestar Galactica because Battlestar Galactica had just come out after Star Wars, and it played in the exact same theater in which I saw Star Wars. To me, it was the next Star Wars. I had no idea it was going to be a TV show, and then boom, it's a TV show, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. It's on TV. It's just like Star Wars, and that was before the Empire Strikes Back came out. So, but I saw it in the theater. I also saw Buck Rogers in the theater. You can even find old reviews of Siskel and Ebert talking about Buck Rogers playing in the theater, and they reviewed it as a theatrical release and not as an actual TV show. Okay, so aside from that, we also had. Let me switch back. We also had what were novelizations. Okay, so we had. I don't have my original novelization. Okay, I got rid of it just because I like the idea of just having all three of the original trilogy just in one place. And some of them, they just got torn up or lost or whatever over the years. But the first version of an expanded Star Wars universe were these movies. I'm not sure which one came first. It was either Han Solo and the Lost Legacy or this other one, Splinter of the Mind's Eye. And I read both of them at the time, and they were just weird to me. It was very weird. And you have to understand when these films came out. I mean, when these books came out, these expansions again, these were the first attempts. I think Splinter of the Mind's Eye was first. These were the first attempts to really expand the Star Wars universe. I mean, and there were no plans for The Empire Strikes Back. And if you read the Splinter of the Mind's Eye, Luke and Leia kind of make out hot and heavy in that. So it's a little bit disturbing after the revelations that come, in Return of the Jedi. There you can see the lightsaber right behind Luke. Yeah. So that was our first chance to kind of expand Star Wars fandom, was by reading those books. So we had novelizations. Eventually, the film played on CBS. The film played on HBO. Eventually, it hit VHS. This is the only way, as far as I know, the old VHS and the Laserdisc versions are the only way to get the original cut of Star Wars, which I recommend. I mean, it's still the best cut of the original film. Empire Strikes Back, I mean, I can take it or leave it. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with the original cut of that, but with Star Wars, it was tinkered with so much in what were called the special edition versions that I really prefer the original. I mean, changing Han and Greedo shooting, man, that was so just seemed pedantic to me. I mean, I don't know. Again, pre-Star Wars, here they are, featured in Fangoria. Now, this is in the lead up to The Empire Strikes Back. So you get a little glimpse of C-3PO and R2-D2. So right there, the robots were always pushed heavily on kids, and I kind of hated them. I had more C-3PO action figures than any other. Man, I hated that, but I never could get enough of the other figures that I needed. But before the movie, I mean, before the internet, this was how we got our little glimpse of news. I mean, people don't understand that if you weren't there, you don't know, you don't understand the boon, the great miracle it is to be able to have instantaneous news. And now we're plagued by these fandom morons online and the people that are constantly grifting and selling you Star Wars news. Don't trust anybody that's selling you Star Wars news, okay? There's original Star Wars collector's cup from Burger King. I bought this not long ago, okay? But originally I had the Darth Vader one and I had the C-3PO cup. Those were the ones I had originally because it was impossible for me to get like the Han Solo one and the Luke Skywalker one. I wanted them, but I couldn't get them. Okay, and then also after the movie came out, before Empire, I almost skipped it. We had these. We had the comics. We had the original comics. Now, some of these comics actually hit the shelves before the film came out. I can't tell you with any absolute certainty if I had these prior to the film coming out, or even I know I had some before Empire came out, but definitely not before the original Star Wars came out. Okay, so this is the point at which. So this is actually probably the first instance of the Star Wars expanded universe. Is right here is issue 7. It took them 6 issues to adapt the entire original film, which was Star Wars, which we now know as Episode 4: A New Hope. Okay, but originally it was Star Wars. It will always, if I say Star Wars, that's what I'm talking about. If I just refer to it as that and not by the episode title. And what was interesting to me, I didn't know it at the time. Han, it tells the story of Han on Tatooine, I guess. Well, maybe they're Tatooine, maybe they're not. It's kind of similar to Tatooine anyway. Tells the story of Han being hired by some farmers to help protect them from basically space bandits that are, beleaguering their little village and everything. And also there's like some kind of monster in it, something like that. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, of course my phone is going off while I'm talking. So anyway, it's not until much later that I find out that the story was actually an adaptation of the Magnificent Seven, and which was kind of a version of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, and it all comes full circle because Star Wars itself, Episode 4, is essentially a cinematic version of a sci-fi cinematic version of Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress. Okay, of course that's just going to go off, so I'm just going to just turn that off right now. Okay. So there you go. So these were the first attempts to do that, and I really remember this issue with the I'll just put it down. This one right here. It's because for whatever reason I love the robot, and I love the fake Jedi guy. He's like a Don Quixote type Jedi. He's not really a Jedi. He's just an old dude with a lightsaber. But I thought that was really cool. And then there's a girl that apparently Han dated for a while, but she's a sharpshooter. And then there's an alien who's like a porcupine. So these were the first attempts at a expanded universe. Okay, and it was pretty cool. I mean, eventually, when Carmine Infantino took over the artwork, to me, it was just I mean, I like his artwork okay now, but as a kid, I don't know. I thought it was just kind of creepy. It was kind of creepy. So I didn't follow all of these, issue by issue and book by book. I just kind of got in and out of them. But you can see all these that I'm showing you now. These are all expanded stories from before The Empire Strikes Back, when there was no such thing as The Empire Strikes Back, when nobody knew there was going to be an Empire Strikes Back. We didn't know it was going to become more than that. We didn't know it was a trilogy. I don't even know where I first read about. I guess it was just in the news. I mean, I really remember being a kid, being over at somebody's house, like after church. It was like a church get together kind of thing. My parents were always going over to visit with other people from their various churches and whatnot. And I think there was like a Newsweek or maybe even a Time magazine, and they were talking about the upcoming Empire Strikes Back. And I remember looking at pictures and I saw something and I was like, hey, that looks kind of like Star Wars. And then you read about it and you're like, oh, it is Star Wars, and it's a sequel. I mean, you had no idea what that. It was a follow up. I don't even know if they used that word sequel at the time, but that might have been where I actually learned that. Okay, so those are all pre Empire Strikes Back. So look at that, 38 issues. Now, at the time that this was sold to us, these are all regulated by Lucasfilm. They had a continuity editor. And these were all sold and approved as official Star Wars canon. Official. These were just as official. This is just as much of a story, just as much a part of the Star Wars story as were the films. That's how these were sold to us. 100%. Okay? 100% sold to us as continuity. Okay? And there were some other strange bits of continuity. Okay? I'm going to show you. No, not the books. Okay, so we had the Burger King commercial, right? Burger King. Like I told you, I had the C-3PO one down there. I wanted the Luke one and I wanted the Vader one, but I had the C-3PO one. I might have had the Han Solo one, which I was really happy about if I did. There you go. I had the Darth Vader one until just very recently. What I've discovered, unfortunately, over the years is that these things are very, very fragile, and just vigorous hand washing alone can cause them to crack and be destroyed. Okay. So prior to the release of The Empire Strikes Back, something very, very, very strange happened. Okay, and it came on TV.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
And I saw this. I saw this on TV. And it weirded me out. Okay? It weirded me out. I was entertained by it. I was amused by it. But I was weirded out by it. It played once and was never played again. Look at this. I remember watching it. I'm like, this is Star Wars on TV. It's like more of Star Wars. This is Star Wars Expanded Universe. That's how this was given to us. This is more of the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? It starts just like this. And you don't know what to think. Now, of course, as it plays out, of course, we're talking about the Star Wars holiday special. I don't want to get this video clipped, so I'm trying to just jump around a little bit on the video. I don't want to get a tag or whatever. So here you go. Opens just like the movie. Well, it's not a scroll, but a scrawl.
The Star Wars Holiday Special.
Star Wars Holiday Special. Wow!
Starring Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
Wow!
unfloored as Han's
This was
introducing
Chewbacca's family. Itchy, scratchy. It's just hilarious. But it was sold to us as expanded Star Wars canon. But then, shortly before The Empire Strikes Back comes out, I'm at home sick with the measles, okay? I'm in bed. I know you don't believe me, but I'm piecing this stuff together for you, okay? You're starting to understand how this was bigger than what you've been told up till now, okay? And I never knew it was going to be as big as it was. I was home sick, right there, laying in that bed. There's a little tiny TV on the opposite side at the foot of my bed. I'm in bed with the measles. Muppet Show comes on.
Angus McGonagall, 15
This
seconds
is what
for
I'm
curtain,
seeing.
Mr. McGonagall.
Love the Muppets. Think it's great. Watched it all the time. Watching this. What the world? I'm in bed with the measles.
Oh, look, it's Luke Skywalker and C-3PO.
It's Luke Skywalker. It's Luke Skywalker right on my TV. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember how close it was into the timeline of where I learned of the existence of the upcoming Empire Strikes Back.
R2-D2 from Star Wars. Oh, they'd make...
And I saw this.
Okay. The stars of Star Wars. Yeah!
No planet.
Excuse me, Master Luke, but what is this strange world we've come to?
This is unbelievable.
3PO.
This is unbelievable.
Seems we've landed on some sort of comedy variety show planet.
But this was presented as, these are the real characters. And then Mark Hamill shows up later. It was just mind-blowing. And it didn't help me that I was laying in bed sick with measles at the time.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest stars, the stars of Star Wars. Yeah!
Unbelievable. 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 And then Mark Hamill shows up. So again, we're getting this expanded Star Wars content. It's insane, really, the things that we were shown. But that was part of why I did this. That was part of why I was this little guy with those shirts. That was part of why I joined the fan club right after Empire Strikes Back. This was part of why I supported those films. So when I was this kid, okay, I would actually ride my bike out to down in Gulfport, okay, and I would just ride right down the highway, maybe less than 5 miles from my house. I could ride my bicycle, and I was little. I mean, I was barely in kindergarten, and I could go on the weekends, and for 50 cents, I could see Star Wars. And I went every weekend by myself. I just rode my bicycle. Now, that wasn't during the initial release. I didn't realize this, at the time. I didn't understand all of this, okay? But Star Wars was actually re-released a year later. And I think that the holiday special was part of, the promotions for that kind of re-release of Star Wars. I mean, it was genius. Okay, so here's a collection of the original Marvel years. Now, obviously, this is a recent reprint and all. But since I don't have all of those original issues, I have to kind of fill in the pieces somehow. So finally, The Empire Strikes Back comes out. Boom. And we're introduced to the ideas of direct sequels, this universe that we've been following with Luke and Leia and Han Solo and all that have expanded even further in ways we didn't think was possible. I remember at the end of The Empire Strikes Back being so depressed about Han being in carbonite. I have not been that depressed until I watched The Last Jedi. And unfortunately, there's nothing that can get rid of this pallor of depression that hangs over me because of The Last Jedi. Because there's nothing else coming after it. And I was told that everything that came leading up to it was a lie. So that's where we are with that. But I was so bummed out that Han was in carbon. I was so worried about Han. I was deathly worried about him. So I joined the fan club. My second card, I wish I had the first one. I'm glad that I laminated it when I did. And even then, when I laminated it, I mean, that was sometime about 20 something years ago. You know, it was all beat up by then. Okay, so then the comics continued the story into The Empire Strikes Back and beyond. Now, I didn't really follow. There's an interesting one for you, The Last Jedi. Interesting title. I did not follow the comics on a monthly or weekly basis, okay? But I do remember some that instantly caught my attention. Oh man, I'm looking at the cover here and it made me forget. I have to back up a little bit before Empire. Before Empire came out, there was a giveaway. Boba Fett with a launching rocket. I'm one of those guys that had that giveaway. Now, people say the rocket never launched. I seem to remember it launching. Maybe it didn't. I was a little kid. But anyway, you had to send off UPCs, and I had a whole bunch. I would cut them off of everything. Every time I got a present or whatever, I would cut those little UPCs off. You put them in a letter, an envelope, and you mail it off. And I got the figure. I had several figures that way, in fact. Okay, this was the one that actually made me take the Star Wars comic serious again. Can you guess why? What did I just tell you? I was depressed about Han being in carbonite. Look at that cover. It's like, oh my God, they found Han. They're going to help Han. I can finally find out what's going to happen. Are they going to be able to save him? And, we finally saw Luke come into his own a bit in The Empire Strikes Back. He had his training and all that, and he had that tough battle with Vader and almost got killed. And then post-Empire, these comics kind of continued that character and showed him becoming more and more and more of a Jedi. And this is really interesting how they've got his uniform here is in kind of a halfway state between his Empire Strikes Back outfit and his all-black Jedi outfit. Pretty cool. So what happens in this, I'll spoil it for you just a little bit because now it's considered not canon. Even though at the time, how was it sold to me? It was sold to me as this has been approved by Lucasfilm. This is part of the continuity. It's part of the ongoing story of Star Wars. And you should read it and you should buy it. That's what it was sold to me as. So anyway, they basically find out that Bosk and they think Bosk and IG-88 have Han Solo, so they confront him. They confront those guys, which was pretty cool. That was the actual issue that got me back into Star Wars. Now, if you want to get the collections, I recommend this one. This is probably one of the best ones. It's Volume 3, Resurrection of Evil, and it has all those stories between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I think this is the one that covers all those that I just showed you. Oh, no, actually, that's in the very next one. Okay. It's in the very next collection. But again, these are sold to me every month. Okay, now that's post-Jedi. There's post-Jedi. I'll have to slow down. Here we go. This is the original book that I had. Again, there was no VHS even at the time. There was no Disney Plus. There was no streaming. It wasn't playing on HBO. So I had to go here to actually read about it. Okay, and this is my original copy. Again, at the time, he had no idea that Star Wars was going to become what it became. Original copy from the time. Some of these I've rebought over the years and whatnot, but not this. This is mine. Oh, God, you can see how I just tore it all to bits. I was fascinated with this design of Boba Fett, and apparently I felt compelled to color it. I have no idea what I cut out, why I cut this out, or what I did with it. Annoyed at myself at the moment. Right now, I'm annoyed with my younger self. But to me, this was fascinating to get to see like behind the scenes. And I had the one for Star Wars as well. They had all the stormtroopers and all that kind of stuff, and all the Vader designs. I drew. All of my life, I've always drawn. So I would take this and just try to just copy the pictures and try to learn how to draw using it. This is the best one. It's actually volume 5. I was way off on that. Okay, so this one covers. Does this one cover that? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's volume 4. Maybe it's the one in between. One in between covers that storyline I was just showing to you. And again, here's the original, my original Return of the Jedi storybook, and then I think this is one that I bought at a flea market or something, a hardcover, because mine's fallen all to bits. They might have both been mine, actually. I'm not sure. But again, this was all. There were no VCR, there was no VHS for any of the Star Wars films at the time. I don't think any of them came out on VHS until after Return of the Jedi. I mean, I'd really have to check the timeline. And again, we were sold, adaptations and collections of the actual story. Now, this is a much later kind of collector's edition that they did, reprinting that old Al Williamson drawn adaptation. It was Al Williamson and Archie Goodwin, I think, that did the adaptation. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. So they actually spun that off into its own limited series, and then the comic just kind of went around it at the time. So this is actually post Return of the Jedi. There you can see Darth Vader is dead. Long live the new Dark Lord. This was some girl who was like some kind of disciple of Vader. I don't quite remember if she had actually been trained by him, or she was just kind of like Kylo Ren, and that she was like a super fan, a Vader super fan, or whatever. But she was presented as the kind of the new Dark Lord, and it's pretty neat. And of course, eventually, Luke has to confront her and all that. These are all post Return of the Jedi comics that had come out. The series was still very good at this time. They just kind of kept the storyline of the Rebels versus the Empire going for a little while. They tried to introduce more Dark Lords, which I was completely fine with. I was completely on board with that. The problem was after this Dark Lord was defeated, that they kind of expanded out into weird new villains, like these space goth. I can't even remember what these things were called. And that's where things got kind of weird and much less interesting. And the series was canceled shortly after. Okay, so another thing at the time, not canon, not non-canon, but if you wanted to enjoy Star Wars and everything that it was, you had the chance to play this, Star Wars the role-playing game. Various source books, fleshed everything out. And again, we were told that all of this was approved by Lucasfilm, and everything inside of it was supposed to be canon. That the names of the vehicles, the names of the various stormtroopers, the weapons, we had source books that were given to us. That's just the rules. But here, a Galaxy Guide. Now, these Galaxy Guides are interesting because they would have the various characters, and they would tell you a bit about them. So all this information that they're telling you about Lando here, this is supposed to be canon, okay? It's supposed to be part of the expanded, continuing Star Wars saga. Okay, all the information you're given in here is supposed to be exactly what's in the movies, exactly what's in the books. It was all overseen by whatever it is that they call it. Now they call it, the Lucasfilm Story Group, which are like the bane of my existence now. But at the time, they had this continuity editor, whoever it was that was assigned at Lucasfilm, that approved all this stuff. Okay, so post Jedi, and that was really kind of it. This is where it kind of ends. So now Star Wars, Empire, Jedi have all come and gone. Action figures come and gone. Everything's finally hit VHS. You can buy it. You can rewatch it. It's played on CBS. It's playing on HBO and Showtime all the time. This was where I actually first read some of the really in-depth, behind-the-scenes ideas of Star Wars. It was in this old Starlog. In this, he talks about, George Lucas talks about Joseph Campbell and the Hero with 1,000 Faces. He talks about Akira Kurosawa. And all because of that, I sought those sources out, and those were just really influential upon me as a person and as an artist and as a writer, especially Joseph Campbell and even Kurosawa and his samurai films. But is it canon? Ding! Okay, so then years and years and years go by. There's no further expansion. The Marvel Comics have ended. There's nothing. There's no Star Wars expanded universe. There are no more holiday specials. What we get are those Ewok movies, which I watched and I kind of enjoyed, but they didn't have Jedi in them. You know, I mean, if we're doing Star Wars here. This isn't Lost in Space. It's not Star Trek. We want Jedi in Star Wars. I mean, that's what we signed up for, right? So, you know, the Ewok films were disappointing. But I remember being so excited to watch them at the time. And then we had Ewoks cartoon. We had the Droids cartoon. And I mean, those are all just, they were whatever they were, you know. But they weren't what we wanted. We wanted more of Luke. We wanted more of Leia. We wanted more of Han Solo. All these guys in action, doing what they need to do. Trying to continually save the universe, you know. Okay, so then there's finally an announcement. They're going to release new novels. And they're going to release new comics. And they're all part of continuity. And they all pick up the story of Luke and Leia and Han after Return of the Jedi. Again, mind blown away. One of the first products released is called Shadows of the Empire, which was a multimedia product. And it was a story between Empire and Jedi. Is that right? I mean, it's been a minute since I've read it, but I think it was between Empire and Jedi. It might have been between Star Wars and Empire. It's a little confusing, but neat story. It's cool because it tied into, didn't have an animated series and it didn't have a movie, but it had a video game. To me, that's kind of cool. I like the whole idea of that. But then we were told these new books are going to expand the story past Return of the Jedi. Okay? Do I have them here? Well, the first one we're told of in the comics is called Dark Empire. And it was great. It was everything it should have been. Luke comes out, pushes over an AT-AT with the Force like this. That alone is cooler than anything he did in the entire Disney trilogy. We couldn't get anything like that in a movie? Really? Me buying this, okay, is keeping the fandom alive. I'm keeping it going. I'm keeping the franchise alive. Okay. I don't want to get to my end point just yet. Okay, but anyway, so again, we're told this is all in canon. And the other thing that happens in this is that the Emperor comes back as a clone. That's actually Luke. He kind of like goes dark side a little bit in this, and it's just kind of a neat thing. Okay, there's an Emperor and Emperor's clone right there. So we got the initial, we were told that whole idea of Palpatine using clones of himself to keep himself alive, and all this pops back up later in Rise of the Jedi. And I didn't really have a problem with this. I mean, I thought it was okay. I mean, it was just kind of like the entire Star Wars trilogy all done over again, just in comic books. But a lot of really nifty things were introduced in it. The holocron, the idea of the holocron, which is still part of canon, which was essentially presented as a wayfinder in The Rise of Skywalker. There's Luke dueling with the Emperor's clone at the time. You know, Leia had been going through training and whatnot. And then we were told about the novels. The novels being the Timothy Zahn novels, which for whatever reason I can't find them. I don't know what happened to them. So it was Heir to the Empire, Dark Force, The Last Command, and Dark Force Rising. Dark Force Rising, I think, was part 2. And they're fantastic. Dark Empire is supposed to pick up, I think, like 1 year after the end of Return of the Jedi. And then we were told that the Zahn novels picked up like 5 years after. So again, there's a continuity. There's an expansion to that Star Wars universe, and even like the goofy stuff of the old Marvel comics, we were never told, okay, that stuff is all BS. Or did they reset at that point? They actually might have said when the Dark Horse books came out, when this Dark Empire stuff came out, that might have been when they first said, okay, these are the new continuity, and the old Marvel comics are non-continuity now. Okay, but they've been sold to us for 5, 6, 7, 8 years as continuity, but now there's a new series to sell to us, and now this is continuity. But these don't really rewrite anything of that. They covered a different time period, so I never quite understood that decision or that announcement, because all the Dark Empire stuff, like I said, happens after the original trilogy. No, I'm looking at the covers myself, and I'm not showing them all to you guys. Boba Fett. Everybody was just fascinated by Boba Fett. Again, this is why you have The Mandalorian, because I bought these damn books, okay? Because I was told this is a continuation of this series, because I sent off my UPC codes to get that Boba. That's why you have The Mandalorian now. Yes, you're welcome, okay? That's why you have it now, because of me. Because of me buying those t-shirts, because of me buying those 12-inch action figures of Boba Fett, okay? If I hadn't done that myself in my generation, you wouldn't have got anything you like. You understand? If we hadn't loved it, we hadn't carried it to you. We carried it to you unbroken, unbroken, whole, complete, and loved and cared for. When we handed it to you, to have it thrown down and smashed, just stomped on. That's why it's disappointing. So special editions come out. They've got the new Art of Star Wars released. All good stuff. Of course, I had to pick them up. Absolutely love these. Highly recommend them for anybody that just wants to tell their own stories and wants to get ideas of how things are designed, how you come up with multiple designs for something, and you try this and you try that. Here's another really interesting book where they compare a lot of ideas of Joseph Campbell's monomyth with stuff in the mythological symbology in Star Wars and that trilogy. And this is all prequels. We had no idea what a prequel was. We had learned about sequels from the trilogy. Really, Star Wars just changed so much. Prior to Star Wars, were there sequels? I guess the old Universal movies were. Those were considered sequels, but were they ever called sequels? I don't know. Somebody will have to answer me on that. Somebody more informed will have to answer me on that. Okay, so again, prequels, just telling us all about the original trilogy. All these characters that we love, that we carried forward for you. Okay, so after the Zahn novels, we were given just kind of an unending series of novels. These were the last few that I read. This little Jedi Academy series where Luke sets up his own academy. And again, these were really good. They were really good. They were not quite the quality of the Timothy Zahn novels. Those Zahn novels would have made amazing movies. And the quality of those is proven by the way that people want to see those characters brought back. People want to see Mara Jade come back from the Zahn novel. Mara Jade as the Emperor's Hand, and eventually marrying Luke Skywalker, which was pretty amazing. Before it was all decanonized. And of course, Grand Admiral Thrawn, who we eventually see on Star Wars Rebels, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, so then we get the prequels, okay, and I'm fine with the prequels. I'm fine with it. I don't love Jar Jar Binks, but I don't hate him, and I don't quite understand the hatred that everybody kind of pumps out towards the prequels. I went and watched them, and I enjoyed them. Then we got a whole new flood of comics. Remember, we were told that Dark Horse comics were the new continuity, right? So we were supposed to follow this as the new continuity. These are every bit as much a part of the continuing Star Wars story as any of the films that you have been shown. This is what we're told when we're given these, when we're sold these, okay? This is all continuity. That's what we're told. Tales of the Jedi, all this stuff. Okay? This is all continuity. This is all continuity. This is all continuity. That's how this stuff is sold to us. It's never sold as what if Star Wars or alternate universe Star Wars. No, at the time it is sold to you, it is sold as continuity. As far as I'm concerned, if I give you money for something, you're telling me it's continuity, it needs to stay continuity, period. Your job, if you're going to continue that storyline, it's your job to figure out how to make it work, not to just destroy everything that came before it. Here's an interesting little odd tidbit. Bailing naked from Star Wars. I think she was supposed to be in episode 2, but after she did this Playboy spread, they cut her out of the film, so never quite happens. One of the things that I really love that came out of the Star Wars prequels was the rise of Jedi Knight Quinlan Voss, which kind of started as a weirdo Star Wars fan theory, where in episode 1 you see Qui-Gon and Anakin walking in the streets in front of like this cafe, and this character is sitting there, and people just kind of in their heads decided he was a Jedi there on a secret mission. And eventually, from what I understand, George Lucas found out about this, okay? So he actually put Quinlan Voss in episode 3, and there are storyboards and I think even animatics of his death scene when Order 66 goes off. You're supposed to see Quinlan Voss get killed. Well, that scene was never finished, so he was kind of canonized by that movement towards being included in the film. And then the Dark Horse Comics went and told his backstory, and they also told the story of how he survived Order 66 because that scene was never finished. So they decided to have him survive, and I really like it. He kind of struggles. He vacillates between the light side and the dark side, as all great Jedi do. Before they find their balance. But anyway, Quinlan Voss, I really love those stories. Again, sold to us as canon, even almost canonized by episode 3 because he was put into it. Now, another really awesome thing that came out after the prequel trilogy was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. 2 games that people absolutely love that told stories of the old Jedi in the Old Republic. Again, sold to us as canon. This is part of it all, okay? Then something really nifty. The Clone Wars continues the story of the prequels. And really, when the Clone Wars first came out, I was kind of I just wasn't interested in it. It was an era. I thought, okay, we just had 3 films about this era with the prequels and all of that. I just felt like, we saw it. Let's move on. I want to see more with Luke and Leia and Han. That's what I wanted to see. So I was kind of disappointed that this was what they were doing again. I was just like, really? You just finished this? You just gave us episode 3. You just showed us how all this stuff finished. One really cool thing was the initial Clone Wars series that came out before episode 2 and episode 3, and it linked the 2. That was really awesome, and I hate that they decanonized that almost immediately. But that was pretty nifty how it led into episode 3, and it still works really well as a connecting piece between those 2 films. But I didn't give season 1 of this much of a chance, but something happened in season 2, and I checked out an episode, and I thought, wow, this is really good. And then they did an episode in season 2 that had Quinlan Voss, who I was just talking about, and they canonized Quinlan Voss in that way. And then they went on to bring back Darth Maul, who we had last seen getting sliced in half in episode 1. And some people are like, that's stupid. But I was like, this is awesome. I mean, because they took the time to explain it. They didn't say, everything that happened in episode 1 never happened. Let me clear my throat. So anyway, great series. Wound up loving it. Absolutely loving it. And then came 2012, and the good news, bad news began, right? Good news. More Star Wars is on the way. Bad news. Everything I just showed you, with the exception of this, does not exist. Everything. My entire life, my entire Star Wars fandom was immediately deleted. Doot. Everything I just showed you. Everything. That's post Jedi, but I had this poster from, that's the original one sheet for Empire. But I had that poster from Empire days, and it moved from house to house with me. It took over the spot right up here where Battlestar Galactica was, but I don't have a picture with that. So it followed me for a while until it ripped. It was a really thick poster. We were told that none of this existed. None of this existed. None of this existed. None of this mattered. None of it was real. None of it happened. It was all gone. That's what we were told. None of it mattered. Now you say, well, you still read them. You still experienced it, right? Yeah, that's true. But there's something that happens. It's kind of like that ripoff of, oh, it was all a dream. If every episode or every movie of everything you watch ends with, oh, it was all a dream, and now I'm going to wake up and tell you the real story, that's just not very fulfilling. It's not very satisfying. Okay, so then we're told, now this is what happens after Return of the Jedi, Shattered Empire. And then there's also some other Star Wars Aftermath or whatever. Okay, so we're told that this is what happens. Okay? That we're told to ignore this. And this is what happens instead. We're told the original cast of Star Wars is coming back. Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Peter Mayhew, Anthony Daniels, everybody. Everybody's coming back. We're going to get more Luke and Leia. Now, we are initially told, okay, it is going to focus on a new set of heroes. And we understand this. We're willing to accept this. We're willing to go along with it. It's okay. Focus on the new heroes. Bring them in. Use the original heroes to build them up. Use those original trilogy characters to mentor them, to point them in the right direction, to fight their battles. We're okay with that. We understand going in, okay, it's going to be about new characters. Okay, we accept that. So, Clone Wars is destroyed. We never get the lost missions, for a few years anyway. They all disappear. All those plot threads. But we're told, hey, those are still canon, which is kind of strange. It's just that nothing else is canon. Nothing else. I can't explain to you what it means to have 30 years. That little kid with the measles watching the holiday special. Not the holiday special, but the Muppet Show. Watching the holiday special, having my mind blown that I'm seeing Star Wars on TV and it's more of it. It just made these characters so real to me. And you told none of it was real. Okay, so then we're told, okay, Star Wars Rebels is the new continuity, and it leads into Chapter 4. Like, really? Right? We need anything that leads into Chapter 4? Again, we want more Luke. We want more Leia. We want more post-Jedi storylines. You know, why doesn't this lead into Episode 7? That was my question. Why Episode 4? I mean, who the fuck is making these decisions in Disney? Did they never follow anything that came before? They couldn't find one dork out of the billions that follow this to ask, where should we start? Where should we go? Again, I didn't give this much of a chance. Got to season 2, watched some good episodes, started to like it, fell in love with it. Love Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels eventually brings in Grand Admiral Thrawn from the Timothy Zahn novels. The same novels we're told never happened. They never happened. as great as they were, as great of movies as they would have made, if that had been the expanded trilogy, the new Disney trilogy, those Zahn novels, the entire world would be completely different right now. The whole world would be different. We'd all be happy. People would be celebrating Mara Jade instead of Rey, you know. I don't hate Rey. I don't hate what's her name? The other chick. You know, I mean, they're not my favorite characters. She's not my favorite character. Rose Tico, you know. But I don't hate them. Okay, so finally, the day comes. Star Wars The Force Awakens. Oh, we get to see more Luke. Woo! Luke, Luke, Luke. I'm going to tell you something. We get more Luke, we get more Han, we get more Leia. And we get a lot more Han. We get a little more Leia. And then we get no Luke. None. One shot. One shot of him at the end of the film. And our journey down the Primrose Path begins. It begins. I didn't have that feeling like I had it in Last Jedi, like I was telling you about. When I watched that one scene in The Last Jedi, I didn't have that feeling yet that the gang was coming in the showers behind me with the towel. I accepted it. I said, I'm down with it. You can go back and listen to my review on MVP Mutant Radio. We reviewed The Force Awakens right after it came out. I loved it. I gave it a 10. I said it's a great setup for episode 8. I can't wait to see what they do with Luke Skywalker. Now, while all this is happening, I'm told, hey, if you want the real Star Wars comics, you have to buy these now. These are the real Star Wars comics. All of those never happened. Never happened. Doesn't exist. Never happened. Doesn't exist. Never happened. It doesn't exist. Remember what I told you about how I felt about Empire, how that emotional state led me to this, which led me to more Star Wars, which now I'm told didn't happen, doesn't exist. Now I'm told, hey, this is what you should really read to get the stories. And you know what my first response was, even before The Force Awakens came out? Was fuck you. I'm not buying those. Fuck you. You've done this to me 3 times already. Like, how many comic series do you want me to buy? And then you're going to turn around and tell me it was all bullshit. It was all a dream. That was my initial. You're saying, well, you got it in your hand, don't you? Yeah, it's a collected edition. And I got it from Ollie's for a couple bucks. That's right. I got it for a couple bucks. Force Awakens comes out. I'm down with it. I'm on board. You don't believe me? Listen to my review. You don't believe me? Look at my crappy laptop from the time. Look at it! I've got my Rey sticker over here on one of my gaming books. I loved Rey. I loved her. But then we got this. Then we got this.
It's so much bigger.
Then we got this. You know, I don't even know where to begin. I had convinced myself, okay, I can take not seeing any of Luke in episode 7. Just give me something in episode 8. Now, what do I want to see? I mean, am I allowed to have any kind of expectation? Am I allowed to have any kind of expectation? Is that acceptable? Am I allowed to have any kind of expectation? Was there any point where I signed up to have an expectation. Can I tell you how much of an this is how simple my expectation was. I want to see Luke Skywalker take a lightsaber and fight like stormtroopers. Just one. One is enough. Here is a trivia tidbit for you that nobody knows, okay? Luke Skywalker is never shown using a lightsaber on a single stormtrooper ever. Ever. Finn fights stormtroopers in episode 7. Luke never does that. If he had one single moment, one single duel, I might have been happy. But this bit, okay, well, let me go back to it. Okay, so first of all, of course, this is totally unacceptable. So we went from the lightsaber awakening in my mind to now I'm about to be raped by RIAN Johnson. I'm sorry I keep using that term for people that have had any of that kind of experience. I'll just say I was betrayed, okay? I'm sorry I said rape. It's just not the same thing at all, okay? I was betrayed, okay? And then this Jake Skywalker bullshit. There's no way you can tell me this is the same guy. It is not the same character. He is out of character. RIAN Johnson. I liked Looper. I had all the hopes in the world. I had all the high hopes, okay? Look at this.
The friendships of a lifetime. The family favorite dream adventure. Blast away the
Look at
TV
this.
doldrums.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. How can you go from that to there's still good in him, Leia. I have to save him. He's trying to save Darth Vader.
Did you try to murder him?
You tried to murder him. He didn't even try to kill Darth Vader. That's how his character arc ended. And you're going to tell me he's going to try to kill who Rey thinks is an innocent boy? If you don't agree with me, you think I'm wrong, Mark Hamill said this was wrong. Mark Hamill told RIAN Johnson. RIAN Johnson was so full of himself and his own, smelling his own farts. He would not listen to Mark Hamill, who was right there. Dude, all you had to do was give it another rewrite. You could have kept all your imagery in it. Everything could have been there for you.
This island now. Stop.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Stop.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Leave this island. Is it true? Did you try to murder him?
Did you try to murder him? They're going to tell us Luke Skywalker tried to murder his nephew? Okay, listen. I'll go along with you on the ride. But RIAN Johnson failed in explaining that change. Okay? You failed, dude. You have to explain it. You can't take a character that's had up to then 40 years of established backstory, 40 years of established behavior as a character. Even though I was told none of this happened, none of it mattered. The character was consistent through all of this. Even when Luke had his battles teetering between the dark and the light in the Dark Empire storylines, even then, he was still true to his character. He still had reasons for doing it. He still never betrayed the essence of who Luke Skywalker was. He wasn't Jake Skywalker. But that person that we were shown, those decisions that we were shown, are not justified to him. They're not justified to him. They're not justified to me. I don't accept it. I was betrayed. A generation was betrayed. And it did not have to happen. If you don't believe me, I did a rewrite. It's right over there. Or maybe it's over there. Or maybe it's up here or down there. The Last Jedi. Rewriting The Last Jedi and saving Skywalker. I did it. It could have been done. Instead, RIAN tried to give us a Rashomon. Well, Rashomon is an entire movie built around telling one story from three different points of view. And he tried to do that with one scene. He wanted to tell one scene from three different points of view and make the viewer fill in his story. But you failed, dude. You have to show us something. You did not earn that emotional change. You did not earn that change of character for Luke Skywalker. What did Luke see in his innocent nephew that so frightened him? What did he do up to that point that he felt he had to just drive a lightsaber through him while he was sleeping? And he couldn't even do that to Vader when they were fighting, when Vader was trying to kill him. He didn't even try to kill the Emperor. And you're going to tell me he tried to kill Rey? I mean, tried to kill Kylo? We were betrayed. We were lied to. We were lied to. We built this. We built this. We carried it to you, kids, okay? You, not thank you, RIAN Johnson. You have Rose Tico because of me. You have Rey because of me. Because I carried it to you. I carried it to you whole, unbroken, loved, cared for. And I handed it to you, said, I'm here, I'm with you. And then they came in behind us and they killed us in the night. They killed us in our beds, in our sleep. They killed him. They killed him. They killed him. That's me after each one of those movies. After Star Wars. After Empire. After Jedi. They assassinated all of them. This is why I have the right to speak to you on this. Right here. I was there from the beginning. That's my proof. Is it whining? Am I jealous of RIAN Johnson? Maybe. All those things. But for whatever reason that I'm still pissed off, that Mark Hamill is still pissed off, that 10 million Star Wars fans that grew up with this are still pissed off. That's why I'm sharing this with you. So that 40 years from now, 30 years from now, you don't get treated the same way with Rey, with Rose, with Finn, with any of those new characters. The Rise of Skywalker comes out and proves us all right. It spends the entire first half of the movie apologizing for everything you just saw. They did everything except put a crawl across the screen that said, we are sorry for RIAN Johnson. We're sorry RIAN Johnson betrayed you, but nothing, make no mistake, nothing that they put in this could ever undo the damage that they did to Luke Skywalker. Nothing. 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 I mean, are you starting to get it? Are you starting to get it? Are you starting to get it? I filled in all the blanks, all the timelines, all the times we were told, hey, here's new stories. Hey, here's the expanded story. Hey, here's this new story. And then again and again and again we were told, no, it doesn't exist. No, it never happened. No, you can't have this story with Luke because you have to go watch this. Now, the funny thing is this, is I initially I never once said I liked this movie. I just didn't hate it initially. I never once said I loved it. There were things in it that I wanted to love. There were things in it that I kind of liked. There were things in it that I disliked. And then there were things I absolutely hated. Okay? When I initially watched it, I think I gave it an 8 or 9 review because it's so well made technically. And in terms of like writing, it's okay in that it answers most of its own questions. But then I just kept thinking about it. Somebody just said to me, like, oh man, if you didn't like that, you should really read this great new Luke Skywalker story that they've got in the comics. And that was it. That was it. I just snapped. I'm like, really? I should read. If I want Luke, that's what I should do? That's what I should fucking do? I should read this? I can't have it in this? I can't have it in this? I can't have it in one of these? I'm not allowed to have these still exist? I have to go buy a new one of these to tell me a story that's been told 1,000 times over already? You can't give me anything new that I can be proud of? Fuck you, RIAN Johnson. Fuck you where you breathe. Fuck you where you live. I'll never watch another one of your films. This is why I stopped talking about this, because I don't like to feel this way. I don't like to feel this way. I don't like to attack creators, okay? But for whatever reason, I feel like Rian Johnson set out to betray me, betray us, betray my generation. He did it on purpose. There's that clip of him saying, you know, I would be worried if everybody said they loved a film. I'm much happier if there are people that love a film, if there are equal parts of people that love a film and hate a film. And that's what he got. I swear he set out to betray every one of us. And it can never be undone. So when you see these fandom morons talking about, oh, Kathleen Kennedy's going to step down, George Lucas is going to save us, they're going to non-canonize the new Disney trilogy. Listen, they fucked it up. Carrie Fisher is dead. They killed Han Solo on screen. They betrayed Luke Skywalker on screen. There's nothing that can be done. You can make all the fucking comics you want about it now. I don't give a shit. When they get to Ollie's, maybe I will buy them for $1. Maybe I'll buy them just to burn them. Is that what you want, Disney? Nothing can undo it. They'll never have another single chance. You mean you could not come up with a single storyline that put all those characters together at the beginning and still made this happen? That's what Disney does? That's what J.J. Abrams does? That's what Rian Johnson does? Fuck you! I don't have enough middle fingers to flip off at every one of you. I don't have enough. He doesn't have enough middle fingers. He doesn't have enough middle fingers. And he doesn't have enough middle fingers. Now, are you starting to understand how you betrayed a generation? That is my point. How do we move beyond it? I don't know. It's not going to be through Disney. It's not going to be through Lucasfilm. It's not going to be through Kathleen Kennedy. I hope Rian Johnson gets to make his Star Wars films, guys, so I can not see them. Every time I see this hashtag on Twitter, thank you, Rian Johnson, I'm like, thank you, Rian Johnson? Are you fucking kidding me? What about George Lucas? Every time I see that hashtag, I type in something about Luke Skywalker, and then I came up with my own hashtag, fuck you, Rian Johnson. And one day I clicked on it, and there's more people using that hashtag. I just made it up in my head. I click it, and there they are. Fuck you, Rian Johnson. So, I'm going to do my best to let it go. I never want to talk about it again. I don't care how many Star Wars comics you guys release and tell me this is the story I wanted, because it's not. You didn't give me anything I wanted. You came in the shower behind me and betrayed me. At least we finally got the closing of the Clone Wars. And The Mandalorian is great. I love The Mandalorian. It's great for now. We'll see if they screw it up in season 2. So I'm going to close by saying, thank you, George Lucas. Thank you, J.J. Abrams, for what you tried to do. But Rian Johnson, you failed. You failed. And I'm going to try to let it go. So if I ever run into you, I don't say fuck you to your face. I don't slap you. I don't try to jump on you. Any of that stuff. Even though I want to. Okay, I'm just going to try to let it go and say, hey, I guess I'm learning a lesson too. That when you're told you're not wanted, that you should just take the hint and exit. You're not wanted, get out of here. I guess I didn't listen. Anyway. But I know I'm not alone, and some of you are not alone either. So thank you for watching. Thanks for taking this little journey with me. Feel free to check out my rewrite of The Last Jedi. And if you want, fill in the blanks, and we'll pretend something different happened, and that Rian Johnson was never given the reins to The Last Jedi. So, hashtag thank you, George Lucas. Hashtag fuck you, Rian Johnson. And I'm going to try to let it go. Okay? I'm going to try. Why can you not let it go? I don't know. Why can I not let it go? You tell me. If you can't tell me why I and Mark Hamill cannot let it go at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Whew. But I guess this is the reason I'm going to let it go, is because the Force will be with you. Oops, I shouldn't hold that part, should I? Always.